Minister for Education. We'll start with a list of questions. Questions 1 and 15 have been withdrawn. I call Harry Harvey.
Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker. That will be question number 2, Minister, please.
Deputy Speaker, since 2022, the Education Authority has been working towards a new model of delivery for its SEND pupil support services. This involves a network of local impact teams where all of the EA SEND specialists can work together to tailor support around the individual needs of the child or young person and their setting. Each local impact team will be responsible for supporting the settings in their immediate geographical area. Each setting will have a direct contact route to a named officer in their local team. At the start of each academic year, each setting will have a strategic planning meeting with their named officer and their named educational psychologist. Throughout the year, the setting's special educational needs coordinator will also be able to request involvement from their local team, either in respect of a specific child or young person or in respect of training and guidance. Since January of this year, all such requests can be made via a digital portal, allowing schools to track the progression of the request. In September 2024, the EA removed the need for an education psychology assessment prior to requesting Stage 2 support services, and an enhanced support offer was put in place for settings. The network of local impact teams will be overseen by a single regional management unit, which will be responsible for performance management, quality assurance, service development, administrative management and resource deployment across all of these local impact teams.
Thank you, Minister. Harry Harvey for supplementary.
Thank you. Minister, how do the local impact teams fit with the SEM reform agenda and delivery plan?
Well, can I thank the member for that question, because he will know, as will colleagues in the House, that I published the Special Educational Needs Reform Agenda and Delivery Plan on the 4th of February this year. The reform agenda is about moving the focus to actions which are needed to ensure that our children and young people with SEND can benefit from greater inclusion and receive the right support from the right people at the right time, and importantly in the right place. This is the most ambitious programme of SEND reform in a generation, which will see our children with SEND truly thriving in education. The successful rollout of the local impact teams, they are integral to that.
Thank you, Minister. Donnelly Baker for supplementary.
Can the Minister tell us if there are currently enough qualified allied health professionals available to the Education Authority to service these local impact teams?
Minister.
Well, the member raises the important point of AHPs being available. That is something that we are working not just with the Education Authority on, but importantly with the Department of Health. So these local impact teams are to be stood up and in place later this year. Some of them are making progress, but we want them all to be up and running, and having AHPs available is going to be important to that. But we also recognise we need to have more. That's why my department is working with the Department of Health to get a greater pipeline of allied health professionals coming through to support the work of education, because where you have young people in settings that need that additional medical support, we need to have the health professionals there available to carry out that work.
Thank you, Minister. Michelle Guy for supplementary.
Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker. Can I ask the Minister for his assessment of what can be delivered in this mandate following the allocation his department have received through the Transformation Board to deliver on his SEND reform plan?
Well, can I thank the member for the question, because she highlights the funding that was secured through the Transformation Board. That will provide some of the funding that is needed to get things started, but it is only a start. The SEND reform and the delivery plan I indicated in the Assembly would require additional funding in the region of just over £100 million per year each year for the next 5 years. The transformation funding comes to less than £30 million, so I think that indicates that yes, welcome, but it is only a start in terms of what we actually need to deliver upon. But I'll be able to provide more details as to the outworkings of that allocation in due course.
Cara Hunter for supplementary.
Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker. Thank you, Minister, for your answers so far. As SEND needs grow across the North, I'm being contacted by parents, by teachers and young people who are waiting up to 4 years for autism and ADHD assessments. Minister, can you detail to this House today what your department is doing to quicken these waiting lists up?
So the member again raises an important point. It's why I published the detailed SEND reform and the delivery plan on the 4th of February this year. We carried out the detailed work of the end-to-end review. We've moved in towards what is the implementation of how we're going to address these issues. And I have indicated that we need to get to a place where we're providing those services at a much earlier stage through that early identification. We shouldn't have to have recourse to a statement of educational need to get the support in place. And even when you get that, we're still not able to provide the support. So the system hasn't been working, but the detailed plan that I outlined would allow us to get to a much better place with the appropriate resources being allocated to it.
John Blair.
Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker. Question number 3.
Minister.
Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker. I intend to bring forward a comprehensive and ambitious early learning and childcare strategy for executive consideration and public consultation by the autumn of this year. While I understand the anticipation around publication of a strategy, I think it is important to reiterate the tangible progress that has been made over the past year. We've invested more in a range of existing early years programmes and embarked upon a major expansion of preschool education programme. One of the key initiatives that I've introduced is the Northern Ireland Childcare Subsidy Scheme, which has provided eligible working parents with a 15% reduction on their childcare bills. To date, the scheme has provided over £6.5 million in savings for working families. This is £6.5 million Northern Ireland parents have in their pockets as a direct result of a scheme which we introduced just 6 months ago. And when combined with tax-free childcare, it is estimated that these working families will have saved over £14 million since September of 2024. I'm also pleased to confirm today that the scheme will continue into the next financial year without interruption. And I am also aware that many childcare providers are planning to increase their fees over the coming weeks. And in anticipation of this, I have decided to increase the monthly subsidy cap for the scheme by 10%. Additionally, I will be increasing the administration payments for participating providers in recognition of their increased operating costs and to ensure that these are not passed on to parents. The Early Years Organisation will shortly advise providers and parents of the full details of these changes, which will take effect from the 1st of April 2025. We've made good progress, but there is more to be done, and I'm considering what further enhancements may be possible within the allocation that I've secured in the draft executive budget.
John Blair for supplementary.
Principal Deputy Speaker, thank the Minister for that reply, and especially the information around the increase in the subsidy scheme cap. Can I ask further to that, though, going back to the strategy, if there be anything included in the strategy to expand the choice of childcare available for children with special educational needs?
Well, can I thank the member and thank him for welcoming the announcement that I've made today about increasing the cap by 10%. We're building on the work that we have taken forward. But the work has started in terms of the comprehensive strategy. We have got on with the job of delivering those measures that are now up and running. But there is work now to take forward in developing the strategy. But because of the scheme that we have introduced, we have now data that provides a much clearer picture in terms of what is the general market, in terms of the number of providers and the number of childminders that are in place in Northern Ireland, how much typically families are spending. We have much better now data as a result of the information that we have through the schemes that have been introduced. All of that will help inform us. But as part of that strategy, this has to be supporting all of our children, including those that have additional needs that require that support. So, of course, when it comes to special educational needs, the childcare strategy has to make sure that it is representative of everybody's needs in our society.
Deborah Erskine for supplementary.
Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker. I want to thank the Minister for bringing forward the 10% increase, because childcare is so important, and I know I have had a number of parents in touch with my office, and it's vitally important for our economy as well. So I thank the Minister for what he is doing on childcare while others are lacking in their development of initiatives. But I wanted to ask the Minister, what initiatives will he take forward with the $50 million earmarked in the draft budget for 2025-2026?
Minister.
Well, can I thank the member for those kind remarks and pass on again my appreciation for her campaigning on this particular issue as well. obviously, the draft budget that was brought forward for 25-26 indicates that there is £50 million allocated to the delivery of this childcare and early learning strategy that we have. So within what has been agreed, the Executive will need to agree then the plan before funding is released to my department. And whilst the £50 million is double what was allocated in the 2024-25 financial year, it is important to say that the £25 million that we were allocated was allocated to cover a 7-month period. So people can do the maths in terms of what that means. So I need to plan, obviously, for the next 12 months of expenditure with the £50 million, continuing what I'm doing, and will give careful consideration as to what would be affordable over that length of time. It's crucial we also sustain the real improvements that have been made across all strands of this package, including the additional support for children that face disadvantage and those with additional needs, and this will be a priority. We also need to continue with the rollout of the standardisation of preschool to remove the inequity in the current model and offer as many children as possible a full-time place from September 2026. So this needs to be carefully managed in line with the state of readiness of our school providers. And I know many in this House have raised issues for those who have received an increase and asking when will those who haven't receive it. I can only take forward the standardisation process in line with the resources that are made available to me. I would like to be doing more, but I will continue to see that programme rolled out for the next academic year as well.
Thank you, Minister. Cathy Mason for supplementary.
Minister, you mentioned in your previous answer there around childminders, and we know childminders are a vital part of the childcare and early years sector. Has the Minister engaged directly with childminders to hear their issue with ratios, and have you engaged with the Minister of Health about the review of the minimum standards, in particular about ratios?
Minister.
Yes, I've met the Childminders Association, Patricia Loosley is head of. I've met with on a couple of occasions as part of the rollout of this scheme. And I want to put on record my thanks to that organisation, because the introduction of this did create some challenge for people to get the appropriate processes in place, and the Childminders Association were very helpful for me doing that. They also facilitated engagement opportunities for me to meet with childminders for them to be able to relay the environment in which they work, and the one that she has mentioned is one that was brought to my attention around the ratios. Rightly, the member highlights that that is a matter that sits with the Department of Health in terms of child safety and safeguarding, but where I think we can make progress as to what is proportionate, then we should be doing that, and that's an issue that my officials continue to engage with the Department of Health on.
Thank you, Minister. I call Justin McNulty for supplementary.
Last can call on Gormaya to the Minister for his answers thus far. Minister, literacy and early learning go hand in hand, yet the teaching of systematic synthetic phonics in England has coincided with decreased rates of literacy. Can you reassure the House today that you will not constrain effective learning and teaching to this phonics system alone?
Minister, it's up to you what way you respond to that. It's not related to the primary question.
Well, listen, I'm happy to give a response to it, but what I would say is, on this particular issue, which is wholly unconnected, albeit in early years, it's good to get the building blocks in our child care facilities when it comes to literacy. Actually, the evidence is the complete opposite as to what the member has outlined. Systematic synthetic phonics, in terms of its introduction in England, has been the norm from 2006. That's why England has rose rapidly up the international levels. We do have a strong phonics-based approach to it, but the evidence would suggest that systematic synthetic phonics is the best approach to building a strong literacy foundation. The context then for using phonics can also be applied, but the primary way to get the best literacy approach amongst our young people as an evidence-led approach is through systematic synthetic phonics.
Call Joanne Bunting.
Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker. Question 4, please.
Can I thank the member for the question? There are currently no plans for a new school build for Dundonald High School. The Education Authority Minor Works team has advised that additional accommodation provision was completed at the school in September 2021, which was achieved through refurbishment and reconfiguration of existing school buildings. And given the current limitations on the department's capital budget and the projects that are already in the pipeline, there are no immediate plans for a call for new major capital works. Should a future call be made, it will be a matter for the managing authorities to prioritise those schools most in need of major capital investment. Submitted schools are then assessed against the funding eligibility criteria set out in the Department's Protocol for Major Capital Works Programme, or a School Enhancement Programme, which is published on the Department's website. But I do look forward to visiting the school later this term, following the members and her colleague Mr Brooks's invitation to do so.
Bunting for supplementary.
Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker, and I'm grateful to the Minister for that answer. He'll be aware that not long ago Dundonald High School received adverse publicity around the condition of the school, and he has mentioned that my colleague David Brooks and I are eager that he would see for himself just how much this school does with very little. I fully understand his budgetary pressures, so what reassurance can he give parents of existing pupils that Dundonald remains on his radar, and for those looking at schools that this is a school most certainly worth considering, as it is a good school?
Minister.
Well, I very much look forward to visiting the school, as I have visited now well in excess of 150 schools across Northern Ireland. Dundonald High School, like many other schools, are rightly asking and indeed demanding that we as elected representatives support them. I want to be able to support all of our schools right across Northern Ireland, including Dundonald High School, but we are not able to do so in the current financial environment that we operate in, and only through significant increased investment in our school estate are we going to be able to make the difference. Despite that, Dundonald offers an excellent education to our young people, and the member is rightly proud of the school within her constituency, and she is a strong advocate for the school and certainly has made the case to me, and I look forward to joining with her on this visit.
Thank you, Minister. Stuart Dixon for supplement.
Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker, and thank you, Minister, for your answer so far. Minister, given, as you've set out very clearly, that it requires finance to both build and repair schools, can you explain your recent decision, or the reasoning behind the decision, to pull finance from the School Enhancement Programme, and specifically in relation to Green Island Primary School in my East Antrim constituency, where the school has been waiting for quite a number of years for a School Enhancement Programme, and indeed many thousands of pounds of public money have already been invested in preparation for that project, yet last week that project was put on hold.
You've asked your question, Stuart. Minister.
Can I thank the member for the question? And he and some other colleagues have raised concerns in other schools about this. It's a matter that I discussed with my officials today. I have not taken any decision to end the work that was taking place in school enhancement projects. My officials are urgently engaging with the Education Authority to find out why they have taken this approach. I certainly do not agree with it.
Matthew O'Toole for supplementary.
Thank you, Madam Principal Deputy Speaker. Minister, back 3 years ago, your predecessor's Education Minister announced nearly 30 schools to be put on the major capital works list. That included an amazing school in the Ravenhill Road in my constituency, in Joseph's, which awaits, like all those other schools, or most of those other schools, any developments. Can you give them any hope as to whether when there's going to be progress? Now, you will say that there's budget constraints, that's
Matthew,
fine, but was it the right thing to do to create all that hope 3 years ago?
Minister.
Well, the member answers his own question around the financial resources that are needed. I haven't been in post now for a year, been able to put out a major call for capital funding to attract people to make an application, because there are so many schools that are in the pipeline and they're not being delivered. It would be false hope for me to make such a call, given how many schools currently are waiting to get support. So I do want to support all of our schools. We also face a very real challenge, and this is part of the tension within the Education Authority, the increase in our special educational needs provision. In this financial year, at least £50 million has been spent on putting in place specialist provision in mainstream settings, enhancing some of our special schools, and that will continue to be the case in the next financial year. We have not had a corresponding increase in the department's allocation of funding, so special educational needs takes priority, rightly so, understandably so, but there are many other parts of the school estate that requires capital investment. I put forward a bid of hundreds of millions of pounds more than what has been included in the draft budget. So I appeal to members, join with me in the efforts that I am making to enhance the financial resources that are available to my department so that I can deliver for the schools that the member has outlined and for the schools that other members bring to my attention that need support.
Moving on to question 5, I call Timothy Gasson.
Question 5.
Principal Deputy Speaker, the Education Authority is currently in the latter stages of procuring the new term service contracts for maintenance and minor works. 2 contracts have been awarded with a planned commencement date of 1st of April, and the other 4 are well underway. It is anticipated that the new contracts will be implemented across Northern Ireland on a phased approach by September 2025. The new delivery model will include key performance indicators to monitor quality of workmanship, adherence to response and completion times. There will also be cost certainty, which will provide assurance and transparency to school leaders. While the service transitions to the new model, there are currently contractor contingency arrangements. This is unfortunately impacting on delivery on the ground in schools in some areas. The Education Authority is aware of these ongoing issues and are ensuring works are appropriately triaged and are implementing alternative contingency arrangements where required. In addition to the new term service contracts, the Education Authority's maintenance service is also reviewing how it can provide the most efficient and effective model for schools to procure low-value maintenance works while also ensuring compliance with health and safety and quality standards. This will be for those maintenance works that form part of a tenant responsibilities, such as painting and carpeting, for example, and it's currently anticipated that any changes will be implemented in the coming academic year. The Education Authority will advise schools when the change has come into operation.
Call Timothy Gasson for a supplementary.
Thank you very much, Principal Deputy Speaker. I would just like to declare an interest as the Governor of Buick Memorial Primary School. Minister, many primary schools, such as the one that I sit on, struggle to carry out basic routine maintenance. Simple things like painting the walls, the school has to fundraise for. At what point will budgets be rebalanced to ensure that schools have enough resources to carry out the basic routine maintenance, such as painting the walls and everyday things to keep their buildings in tip-top shape? The budget's there at the minute, the money that's there at the minute simply isn't enough.
Okay, thank you. Minister?
Well, the member highlights a real challenge, and you now have a scenario where approximately at least 60% of our schools are in a deficit position. But that indicates that there are schools that are in a surplus position, and again it's always worth looking at what are the underlying reasons for that, what way is the common funding formula pulled together when it comes to the allocation of funding to particular schools, and there are many component parts, including an old building, a rural building, and that all influences how much funding comes into a school, as well as the number of pupils that are in a school. That's why it's important that we have sustainable schools. So the point is well made around the financial needs in schools, trying to increase their budgets. I have increased school budgets, but of course there needs to be more funding allocated to do it, and if I have that resource, I will want to put it into schools. But on the issue of maintenance, we are carrying out important work with the Education Authority to make it easier for schools to address some of the issues that whenever they commission the work, that they're able to do that in a way that I believe will be more affordable to the school. And that is part of what I spoke about in this Assembly previously. I've reiterated the work that is ongoing to do that. We need to balance and be proportionate in ensuring that we get value for money for the taxpayer, but also that schools are able to get the work carried out where that is at a low level. That's why I've increased the threshold for this sort of work from 5,000 to 10,000, and I'm keeping that under review. If I believe that it could be higher, then that's something that I would be prepared to consider.
Thank you. Minister Nick Matheson for a supplementary.
Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker. The Minister will be aware of the attention that's been paid to minor works projects and how they are prioritised. Does the Minister support undertaking a review, both at EA and departmental level, of how those projects are prioritised, so the public can have confidence restored that it is the most deserving projects going forward in any given financial year?
Minister?
Well, it is important that people do have confidence, and there was work carried out by the Northern Ireland office in terms of its view around the minor works projects. and whenever that report was compiled, it did provide some assurances in that respect. So obviously the committee has looked at a particular issue. I think it's important that whenever we carry out a review, it's based on credible evidence and not a contrived concern that was articulated about one particular school wrongly by those who used that school. I hope they have taken the opportunity to apologise to the principal. Some of them didn't seem to know how to contact him, didn't have his mobile number. Quite happy to provide that to the members if they feel they need to do it. But I have confidence that the processes that are in place, both within the Education Authority and within the Department of Education, are appropriate by way of the governance, but I won't be carrying out a review because of contrived misconcerns that was deliberately targeting a particular school from one particular sector.
Call Jerry Carroll for supplementary.
Thank you, Minister. Am I constituency Honorary Vac and Gilskull Nawal, an Irish language primary school and childcare facility, have a collapsed large railing fence from the storm, the storm a few months ago. Both the school and I have reached out to the EA, the council and other government bodies who can advise how it can be repaired. Can the Minister or his officials advise where the school is to go, where the centre is to go, and other organisations in a similar position?
Minister.
Well, I'm happy to look at the particular issue the member said. Where there is maintenance works that need to be carried out, there are procedures in place in terms of EA, there's a help desk there, there's a way to contact it, but I'm happy to look at the particular issue that the member has raised and provide that information to him.
Thank you, Minister. Moving on to the next question. Tom Buchanan.
Number 6.
Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker. Firstly, I want to say that I appreciate the many benefits of our young people learning about the Ulster Scots culture and language in our schools, including through the means of musical instrument tuition. In terms of the benefits of instrument tuition more generally, music is a statutory requirement of the Northern Ireland curriculum under the arts area of learning. Encouraging pupils to love and play music in schools is important, and providing opportunities for them to learn musical instruments should also be encouraged. Pupils benefit not only from learning musical instruments, but also the development of their creativity, social skills and confidence, both as individuals and members of a group. Playing an instrument can also enhance memory, attention and problem-solving skills. Music education provides more than just short-term benefits. It fosters a lifelong appreciation of the arts. My department is aware of the work of the Ulster Scots Agency in primary schools, which aims to use Ulster Scots traditional music to offer young people opportunities to explore the historical origin of both the instruments and of the music itself. Pupils also have other opportunities to learn about the Ulster Scots culture and language in the classroom. At Key Stage 3 level, the local global citizenship strand of the Learning for Life and Work area of learning provides pupils with opportunities to investigate ways in which individuals and groups express their identity. For example, dress code, language, musical and sporting traditions, religious and political opinion and beliefs. Ultimately, our schools and teachers have the freedom to choose the contexts, topics and themes which are most appropriate to their learners. It is entirely a matter for individual schools to determine how they use their delegated budget to support delivery of the curriculum, including which external providers to engage with to enhance the delivery of lessons in the classroom. Schools are best placed to assess the needs of their pupils.
Thank you, Minister. I call Tom Buchanan for supplementary.
Thank you, and thank you, Minister, for a very comprehensive response. Does the Minister believe or agree that this is a programme which merits further development and building upon?
Minister.
Yes, I very much agree with the member in terms of the importance of the work. That's why I've outlined in detail why it is important to support this work. The Ulster Scots Agency do good work in this area. It is, though, an arm's length body of a different department, and that is something I know that in terms of support is always a challenge, to have the support for that agency to carry out its work.
Patsy McGlone for supplementary.
Minister, any assessment of Skald Spragha demonstrates the enormous benefit it represents to promoting and encouraging the Irish language in schools. Can you give us any indication today what measures your department is taking to assist in the maintenance of this scheme, recognising that Gail Lynn believes the scheme will cease in June if more supporting funds aren't found?
40 seconds for a response.
Okay, well listen, I'm happy to look at the particular issue. I'll be meeting with one of the Irish language groups in the next half hour or so. This may well form part of that conversation. I've indicated that I very much want to support all of our sectors. I've been very encouraged whenever I have visited those schools that are providing education through the medium of Irish. The results speak for themselves. They're important to their communities, and so they're important to me. And if there are issues that need to be addressed, I'm happy to look at that, and where I can, I will.
That ends the period for listed questions. We're now moving on to 15 minutes of topical questions. Question 2 has been withdrawn. I call Cara Hunter.
Principal Deputy Speaker. Minister, you have talked at length about the importance of curriculum review. I was disappointed that there was no mention of that in the programme for government. Can I ask today, have your executive colleagues agreed with you on matters of curriculum reform?
Well, just to assure the member, whilst it may not be in the programme for government, I'm taking it forward. I didn't have to wait for a programme for government to be agreed to get on with a huge amount of work within my department. And the review of the curriculum is an important piece of work. I think everyone would agree that we need to ensure that our curriculum is fit for purpose, and a review of that is timely, and I look forward to its work being concluded by Lucy Crean, who I commissioned to carry out this work for me, and then we'll look at what that says, and we'll take forward further work as a result of it.
Cara Hunter for supplementary.
Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker. I thank the Minister for his answer. Minister, at one of our previous education committees, one of the teachers' trade unions had said there's a growing fear our schools are becoming exam factories. Will you reassure us today that your curriculum reforms, that this won't include in your curriculum reforms, and will any change be subject to executive agreement?
Minister.
As we take forward the review of the curriculum, one of the areas that I want to build on primarily will be a review of literacy and also numeracy. They're two key areas in any education system that provide the basic building blocks. Unless you are proficient in literacy, you're not going to be able to read your history books or geography, and therefore it's critical that we are maximising the number of young people who are competent in literacy and numeracy. But it's also one of the key drivers for closing the educational gap that exists between those who have and those who have not. You know, we have the opportunity in our schools where young people coming from disadvantaged backgrounds, it is their only hope, and we need to make sure that we are providing the right support to every single school in Northern Ireland, because if we can do that right, we will be supporting the life opportunities of those young people. And so, of course, where there are issues that I then need support from executive colleagues in terms of how we carry through our work in the Department of Education, I'll seek that support. But there are many pieces of work that I'm able to take forward within my department that fall within my purview, and I'm determined to continue to drive forward that progressive review that I'm carrying out around our curriculum.
Thank you, Minister. I call Robbie Butler.
Thank you, Madam Principal Deputy Speaker. I was delighted to hear the Minister mention life opportunities, and the Minister hasn't been afraid to speak into this space. So I'm going to ask the Minister for an update in regard to the interministerial talks around Caleb's cost and post-19 provision for children with an SEN, please.
Minister.
Well, can I thank the member for raising that? And there will be an event, I think, on Wednesday evening up in the Long Gallery, which I will attend and speak at. I've met with Alma, Caleb's mum. I absolutely understand the concerns that she has, and it speaks to that need for all of our departments, Education, Department for Economy and Department for Health, to be working together on this issue, so that whenever children and young people are coming through the formal education process, that whenever then they are transitioning to post-19, there needs to be the proper support and the pathways in place to do that, and that has to be achieved through that collaborative approach across those three departments.
Robbie Butler for supplementary.
Thank you, Madam Principal Deputy Speaker. I thank the Minister for his answer, and I know he is absolutely honourable in his commitment to this. However, we only have 2 years left of this mandate. Can the Minister outline what he believes is achievable in this mandate, and does he agree with me, because this would have been my pursuit, is that the Department for Education could actually take the lead on this in the next mandate, perhaps?
Minister.
Well, I think whenever I look at this issue, I look at how do we support our children and young people that are currently coming through that education system. And I've been in schools where they demonstrate and show me that as they create those pathways post-19, they work with the Department for the Economy and in some cases Health, that transition process can work and work very well. and there are good examples to do that. And it's about creating that ability to be independent of the education system, but to continue to be supported by the government. I also look as the Education Minister, though, and say in the last academic year we had to create over 1,400 new places for children with additional needs. I am engaging with EA because the environment that we are facing for the next academic year presents real challenges. And so as we have hundreds of young people coming forward that currently don't have placements in that age of 3, 4 and 5, we also need to make sure, though, that there is support for those young people that are leaving the formal education system and transitioning into the responsibility of other departments. I believe there's more work to be done to get those pathways right, but I look forward to the event on Wednesday in the Long Gallery, where we will be able to see some of the young people, hear from them, and it's important that their voice is heard in all of this.
Call Philip Brett.
Thank you, Madam Principal Deputy Speaker. Minister, could I ask you to update the House on your budget for this year and the position that the department currently sits at?
Minister.
Well, can I thank the member for that question, because he does raise a really important issue whenever it comes to the financial needs that we have, and I've spoken about that already. In this current financial year, the challenges that we're facing are difficult. We are facing an overspend, but we are working incredibly hard with the Education Authority to bring our budget in line this year. There's been a huge amount of work to do to carry that out. I am confident that we should be able to come in this financial year in a break-even position, but that has been to the detriment of resources not being put into the areas that it should have been put into. Our capital budget, again, we have challenges there, but I'm confident that we will be able to bring our capital budget online. The next financial year, though, presents a really difficult challenge.
Philip Brett for supplementary.
Thank you, Madam Principal Deputy Speaker. And looking to the next financial year, Minister, you obviously secured important commitments in the programme for government, but that will require resourcing from the Executive. Could you outline the implications of the draft budget for your department?
Minister.
Well, it's a challenge I have, and listen, colleagues around the Executive table all have challenges, but in education they're particularly acute. The latest assessment of the draft budget for my department indicates an inescapable resource pressure totalling £261 million. The £261 million shortfall means that the department won't be able to fund a number of areas, including the EA's block grant when it comes to SEN non-pay pressures, maintenance pressures. This issue is increasingly a cause for significant concern. Again, I would refer members to the Audit Office report when it comes to managing the school estates. There will be increasing school deficits in place, non-SEN pressures that are funded by the EA block grant, including but not limited to home-to-school transport, catering, ICT, and there are other high-priority pressures of around £76 million. So those that are deemed inescapable and high priority come to £337 million, and my capital is forecasting a gap of £91 million. So the picture for the next financial year is really difficult. I say that to colleagues around this Assembly who rightly challenge me to do more for schools, but I can only do what I have available to me. And to be fair to the Executive, whilst it's my job to advocate for my department, all of my colleagues are facing these challenges, and the Executive as a whole is not being funded at a suitable level, but we need to give education the priority that I believe it deserves.
I call Diane Armstrong.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Minister, I've just come from a meeting this morning in 5 Mile Town Primary School, and there are grave concerns there about the traffic issues surrounding that school. And while that's a DFI concern, I wanted to ask the Minister, do you consider it necessary that a principal should have to monitor the children at roadside 3 times a day, losing valuable in-school time to ensure the safety of the children?
Minister.
It's a real challenge that the member highlights, one that's not unique, unfortunately, to 5 Mile Town Primary School when it comes to the speeding of motorists. What I would appeal to are those that are driving past our schools to slow down, to take into account the environment that you are in. Often road safety measures will only be as good as the individual behind the wheel of their car, and even whenever we have 20-mile-per-hour limits in place outside of our schools, projects that have been taken forward through the Safer Schools scheme that DFI support, you still have reckless individuals out there that are speeding, and that requires them to be much more sensible in how they do things, as well as a policing response. But unless people's behaviour improves, we're always going to have these challenges. Where we can carry out minor work schemes, and typically when it comes to traffic management schemes within schools, they do not score highly in the current environment that we face. That would be an area that is part of minor work schemes that you would want to see taken forward, and that can help in some situations to improve the flow of traffic around a particular school. But it is a point that is well made. Government do have a response, but so too do the people, to take responsibility for their own behaviour.
Diana Armstrong for a supplementary.
Thank you, Madam Principal Deputy Speaker. And Minister, it was disappointing DFI did not attend the meeting this morning to give us their thinking on what can be done in form of solution. Could I impress upon the Minister that he may engage directly with the Department for Infrastructure to expedite this and find a solution? Thank you.
Minister.
Yes, I'm happy to take the case up that the members brought to my attention. I have done so for some other schools in engaging directly with the Department for Infrastructure, but I'm sure the Minister for that department is listening and will want to respond. But I certainly will ask my own officials to engage with the member, get the details, and I'll happily raise the issue with the Department for Infrastructure on her behalf.
Peter Martin.
Thank you, Madam Principal Deputy Speaker. In terms of addressing the crucial area of educational underachievement, can the Minister inform me of any positive interventions or lessons that he believes we can learn from other jurisdictions?
Thank you, Peter. Minister.
Well, it is always important to reflect not just on the expertise that exists in our own country, of which there is expertise, but also to see what's happening in other areas. And I have had the opportunity to visit a number of different schools, the Michaela School in London being an example. I think the principal there is heralded as the strictest principal in the United Kingdom, currently is engaged in a bit of a battle with the Education Secretary. I don't want to weigh in on that particular issue. I've got enough of my own challenges. But you can learn from other schools the way in which they are going about their education system, and if there are lessons that can be learned, we should do that. But there are good examples where that takes place. Some of the examples that I've been able to engage on has been improving pupil attendance. So how do we, in terms of meeting with home nations, we've looked at how that happens in other jurisdictions. Also the Extended Schools programme, so an independent evaluation commissioned, including the examination of best practice in England, Scotland, Wales and the Republic of Ireland. We've also looked at the Fair Start programme. We've also looked at the Four Nations Equity in the Education Group. So yes, to the member's question, we should be looking at international best practice as well as the expertise that we have in our own country.
Peter Martin for a supplementary.
Thank you, Minister, for his answer. Does the Minister feel that any of the examples that he's highlighted in the answer to me could be transferable to Northern Ireland?
Well, I know that some schools in Northern Ireland, for example, the Michaela approach, elements of that have been incorporated in some schools here in Northern Ireland. So, yes, you can disseminate that best practice. Importantly, the Inspectorate has a key role to play in Northern Ireland when it comes to identifying best practice and sharing that information, as well as identifying where there may be issues in schools, not least around safeguarding issues when it comes to children. Our Inspectorate can go in, they can get that information, and they're there to support schools. However, as a result of action short of strike, our Inspectorate are once again being prevented from getting into our schools. And I think that is a situation, not only is it regrettable, it shouldn't be happening, because we can't then disseminate best practice, but importantly, we also can't have the Inspectorate in our schools identifying any child safeguarding issues, and I don't think that's a tenable position.
Call Paula Bradshaw.
Thank you.
Madam Principal Deputy Speaker. Minister, can you please provide the latest figures of non-teaching staff currently working without a completed Access NI check, including those who are employed directly by the Education Authority? Thank you.
You have 30 seconds, Minister.
So I don't have the precise figures for the member just right now, but I'll get them for the member. I know they were released in a question recently, I think, to her colleague Michelle Guy, and there has been a significant decrease in terms of the number of individuals that haven't had their safeguarding paperwork carried out. But whenever this issue was brought to my attention, the member can be assured I was aghast at the situation. I made it clear that this was in no way satisfactory or defensible. I immediately engaged with the Education Authority as to what steps they were taking to ensure that the appropriate paperwork was being carried out. But individuals should not have commenced their employment, and I have raised the issue about their employment status. And if they have not completed the paperwork, why are they continuing to be employed by the school? So there is work taking place to address this issue. I want to get to the point where we don't have those numbers at the high level that they are, and I have made it explicitly clear that this issue needs to be got a grip of, because we could never compromise when it comes to child safety.
Paul, there's no time for supplementary, so we must move on to questions to the Minister for Health, and we will start with a list of questions. Questions 14 and 15 have been